Internet liminal aesthetics explained.
Dreamcore. Dreamcore is an internet aesthetic that feels like stepping into a dream you can't quite explain. The images often look ordinary, like the hot air balloon or a house in an eye test machine. But the more you stare, the stranger they feel. Common motifs include identical suburban houses, impossible landscape, warped perspectives, or staircases that lead nowhere. The images usually look hazy, soft, and otherworldly. Sometimes objects that don't quite belong together, or a dream place that is too good to be true. The aesthetic is popular among online communities on Tumblr, TikTok, or Reddit. What makes dreamcore powerful is that contrast, the mix of the familiar and the uncanny.
It captures that eerie liminal space between comfort and unease.
Like being half awake in a dream where everything looks normal, yet nothing feels quite right.
Weirdcore. Unlike dreamcore, weirdcore leans into the nonsensical and surreal. It often takes low-quality images from the early days of the internet and twists them further with odd color palettes, distorted proportions, or unsettling filters. Sometimes a cryptic caption is added, making you feel like you've missed an important clue. Typical motifs include floating eyes, giant mushrooms, glitchy rooms. The weirdness works because it taps into subconscious fears, corrupted memories, lurking anxieties, or the sense of being trapped in a reality that feels just slightly off. Picture a highway that looks ordinary until a massive planet hovers on the horizon, or a doorway that suddenly opens into another impossible dimension. Weirdcore thrives on this tension, the moment when the familiar slips into the uncanny. At its heart, it's an aesthetic about capturing the raw, unsettling strangeness of existence itself. Traumacore. Traumacore is one of the more controversial and emotionally heavy aesthetics that emerged online, first surfacing on Tumblr and later spreading through TikTok edits. It taps directly into imagery and feelings linked to trauma, vulnerability, and mental distress. Common motifs include toys, childlike doodles, hospital rooms, and grainy bedroom photos. These are frequently overlaid with fragmented text like phrases about anxiety, loneliness, or the longing for safety. The haunting effect comes from the contrast, innocent or nostalgic visuals with undertones of sadness, brokenness, or abandonment. A typical example might be a stuffed animal left on a dirty floor captioned with lines like, "Are you still here?" or "Don't leave me." Traumacore channels unspoken feelings in symbolic, unsettling ways. For some, it becomes a form of coping or self-expression. For others, it can feel triggering or uncomfortable. The backrooms. The backrooms is one of the most recognizable internet-born liminal space aesthetics, originating from a creepypasta post in 2019 that showed eerie footage of endless yellow rooms. The concept is deceptively simple yet deeply unsettling. You no-clip out of reality, like in a video game glitch, and find yourself trapped in an infinite maze of yellow rooms. The walls are covered in stained wallpaper, the fluorescent lights hum endlessly, and the air smells faintly of damp carpet. At first glance, it looks bland and empty, but the longer you wander through, the more claustrophobic and paranoid it feels, like something unseen might be lurking just around the corner. Since then, the Backrooms has expanded into games, YouTube short films, and an entire community-built mythos on the Backrooms wiki, detailing its countless levels, creatures, and rules of survival. It transforms ordinary, forgotten spaces into something terrifying, playing on our primal fear of the uncanny, the infinite, and the inescapable. Poolcore. Poolcore is another branch of liminal aesthetics centered on the eerie beauty of empty swimming pools. At first glance, the images seem ordinary. clean tiles, turquoise water, but the silence and absence of life make them strangely haunting. The immersive water feels infinite and unnerving, as if you're slipped into another reality that's peaceful, yet isolating. Poolcore splits into two distinct moods. One evokes childhood nostalgia, soft pastel tunnels, floating animal inflatables, gentle ripples. It feels innocent and comforting. The other type feels sterile and uncanny. Minimalist indoor pools framed by cold tiles and white walls. Sometimes the water is lit by fluorescent lights. These spaces feel too clean, too quiet, like luxury stripped of life. The aesthetic taps into nostalgia, isolation, and the strange beauty of artificial spaces designed for leisure. Pools should feel familiar and safe, yet without life, they transform into surreal, almost alien landscapes. Anemoiacore feels different from the other aesthetics we've covered. It's nostalgia for a time you've never lived through, whether that's a real past or a romanticized version from the media. The word anemoia comes from John Koenig's Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, describing that strange longing for an era outside your own memory. Visually, this aesthetic looks like snapshots of the past, grainy photos of vintage hallways, empty offices, suburban malls with VHS filters, or flickering neon signs. Sometimes it's childhood spaces, like playgrounds or arcades, not necessarily your childhood, but something from a collective memory. The trigger could be anything, a picture, a movie scene, a song, even a scent. Think of the film Somewhere in Time, that sudden wave of sorrow and longing for something just out of reach. Anemoiacore taps into our universal desire to connect with the past, even if it only exists in old films, family albums, or retro ads. It's nostalgia without memory, a longing to live in another time.